When you study World War II long enough, you realize the most decisive victories weren't always won by bigger armies or better weapons. Many were won by deception, carefully crafted disguises that shifted entire campaigns. And before we dive in, if you're a returning viewer or new to the Legacy of Survival community, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss deep dive content like this. What you're about to hear isn't the surface-level stuff you find in school textbooks. These are the disguises that shape the fate of nations, moves hidden behind classified memos for decades. And, understanding how they worked gives us something incredibly valuable, a look at the mindset of operatives, soldiers, and strategists, who had to survive not by force, but by outthinking their enemy. Let's get straight into the tactics. How the Allies built entire fake armies to mislead German intelligence. One of the most influential disguises of the war wasn't worn by a person, but by an entire military formation. The Allies constructed a phantom army under General George Patton, known as the 1st United States Army Group. Inflatable tanks, wooden aircraft, fake radio traffic and staged troop movements convinced German intelligence that the main Allied invasion would land at Pas-de-Calais. This was critical because Germany positioned its strongest units there, leaving Normandy vulnerable. The lesson modern survivalists can extract is straightforward. A believable false front is often more powerful than open strength. In practical terms, whether you're securing property, running a training scenario, or even managing personal operations, creating misleading signals can buy time, redirect attention, and control outcomes. Something as simple as decoy lighting, false vehicle tracks, or staged foot traffic can replicate the same psychological effect. How British intelligence disguised a corpse to sell a false invasion plan. Operation Mincemeat remains one of the boldest acts of wartime misdirection. British operatives dressed a homeless man's corpse as a Royal Marine officer, loaded him with falsified documents, and released the body off the Spanish coast, knowing it would reach German hands. The papers suggested Greece and Sardinia were the true invasion targets. Germany swallowed the bait. The implications are massive. Even the smallest artifact, if constructed with confidence and context, can shift high-level decision-making. Applying this today isn't about deception for manipulation. It's about understanding how information is interpreted. When you are presenting data, planning strategy, or even navigating negotiations, packaging matters. Details like uniformity, handwriting style, and material choice can determine whether something is believed or dismissed. World War II proved that presentation is a weapon. How commandos disguise themselves as enemy soldiers to infiltrate and sabotage. The German Skorzeny units and some Allied special forces used enemy uniforms to breach defences, flip road signs, create traffic confusion and sabotage communications. The controversy is clear, but the tactical impact was enormous. At the Battle of the Bulge, small German units dressed as United States soldiers caused panic disproportionate to their numbers. The practical lesson is that blending into the environment, whether urban, rural or digital, is often safer than trying to stand out. For modern enthusiasts, this translates into mastering environmental reading, matching movement patterns, altering posture, adapting accents, even adjusting gear to fit local norms. Disguise isn't just clothing, it's behavior. How spies posed as civilians to live undetected in enemy territory. The most effective World War II spies weren't flashy. They were forgettable by design. Men and women lived quietly in cities they didn't belong to, learned local slang, memorized train schedules, practiced regional superstitions, and survived by appearing entirely ordinary. The real skill was observation and emotional discipline. This carries over into modern threat avoidance and survival planning. The ability to disappear in plain sight, moving without triggering suspicion, is invaluable. It begins with studying an area, noticing daily rhythms, learning what is normal and abnormal, and adapting accordingly. You can practice this anywhere. Walk into a new part of town and spend 10 minutes saying nothing, just watching how people stand, talk, laugh, or queue. That's the root of operational disguise. So let's talk about how resistance fighters disguised weapons as everyday objects. Across Europe, these brave networks carried pistols in baguettes, grenades inside hollowed books, radio parts hidden in children's toys, and even messages sewn into clothing. These ingenuity-based disguises really kept them alive. Now, for a modern survivalist, the equivalent isn't about hiding weapons, but rather about hiding essentials. Think secure storage that looks like decor, tools disguised as ordinary household items, or emergency supplies blended right into your everyday environment. It all follows the same principle. Hide what matters in what doesn't. Start by identifying your essentials, things like documents, gear, tools, and then test whether you can integrate them into normal objects without, compromising access. Moving on, let's consider how aircraft and ships use camouflage to deceive both sky and sea watchers. Before digital detection came along, visual deception absolutely ruled the day. Ships were painted in dazzle patterns, those aggressive geometric lines, to confuse U-boat officers who were trying to calculate speed and direction. Aircraft used countershading and disruptive patterns to blend into cloud cover or ground terrain. The big takeaway here is that shape disruption is actually more impactful than just colour matching. You can apply this when setting up camps, storing gear outdoors, or even maintaining privacy. Breaking up straight lines, using shadow, and avoiding uniform surfaces often works better than simply trying to match an environment. Even your own movement in wilderness settings becomes safer when you interrupt outlines and, vary your pace. Now, let's look at how entire cities disguise themselves to survive aerial attack. One of the least discussed disguises of the war was actually large-scale strategic blackout. Cities like London and Berlin altered skylines, painted roofs, redirected lights, and built fake structures to mislead bombers. These community-scale acts of disguise, they saved thousands. For today's preparedness mindset, the lesson is about rapid environmental alteration. Whether you're facing a natural disaster, power outage, or civil unrest, the ability to modify visibility, light, sound, silhouette really determines safety. Practicing this doesn't require wartime conditions, by the way. Run a night drill, turn off all lights, see what silhouettes remain visible from outside, and learn how to eliminate or redirect them. World War II proved that disguise is both an art and a science, and the people who mastered it, they truly reshaped history. If you found this guide valuable and want more deep, serious breakdowns of survival, strategy, and forgotten history, make sure you subscribe and, share this with someone who'd appreciate a deeper look beneath the surface of the war.